bragging to the guys, trying to steal the show. Secrets and lies, speaking at night, I think you ought to know. You should be a team player, not just a player. Otherwise I say goodbye, I see you later. Cold-blooded, you shouldn't wonder why I left you with the rearview mirror. Don't act so surprised, it's true. Everything was me and you. Team player, play on. Cause you. I gave you everything. Through my heart and I'm screwed, crying in bed, look what you do. I used to stay up all night, wondering why I'm not fine. Looking up at your lows and staring down at your highs. I don't wanna feel like this. I just want emotions fixed. I just wanna feel something. Don't wanna be a lonely bitch.
Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts based here in Seattle, Washington. And the reason why I'm smiling right now and laughing a bit is that I just realized that I played the video and I wasn't live yet, but we are definitely live now. Thank you for the little heads up that came through my platform that I use. So thank you so much for joining me. Oh my gosh, I think I got up too early today or something. But my head's back in the game, so we're all good. And I'm really excited about this format that we have tonight because it's the very first Eclectic Arts, what I'm calling a music symposium, where we're going to bring 3 musicians together. In this particular case, 3 young female musicians that have a ton of talent and so many good things going for them that it's going to be fun having them together. And for roughly the next 90 minutes or so, we're going to talk about things related to their career, but also just kind of just some, if random things come up too. So. And for all I know, maybe questions will start getting shot towards my direction. It's all kind of fair game at this point. But again, thank you so much for joining me. And if you happen to be watching on YouTube, if you could subscribe to my channel, if you're watching on Facebook, if you could like the page, and if you're on Twitch, if you could also follow me there, that would be great. And a little bit of housekeeping before we get to to the panel. I can't believe I didn't press the live button. Oh my gosh! But today is the first of 3 virtual interviews that I have, and tomorrow morning, it's an early one at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I have the new installment with the Soap Girls from South Africa, and that's going to be always eye-opening. I can never really prepare for those interviews because we go off on all kinds of tangents, and they're always have a lot to say, so that's going to be a lot of fun, and that's again at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then at 2 p.m. on Tuesday Pacific Standard Time, I have Nikki Stringfield from the Iron Maidens coming by. And she's an amazing guitar player, and I'm really looking forward to talking to her on Tuesday. And then this concept that we're doing tonight, the theme's going to change, but on Monday, March 1st, I decided to kind of challenge myself, and I don't really know why I do these things, but I wanted to see if I could get some film directors together that live in different countries and come virtually together and kind of talk shop about filmmaking and all their projects and all that kind of thing. And I got lucky that somehow we managed to make it work. So I've got a director from Germany, a director from Australia, a director from New Zealand, and then one that's local. And there's a slight chance we might be getting a director from Scotland joining us too. So you can imagine the logistics and the time zones and everything else, but that's going to happen on March 1st, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I have not really plugged it that much on my socials, but it's coming because it took a lot of work to try to get together. So that's going to be an interesting one. So there's going to be more of these kind of themed get-togethers, but there will also be the original Fun Table sessions at some point where we're just kind of shooting the breeze. And I'm just kind of figuring out who I want to invite to the next one that I do, which will be sometime in March is my guess. So I've probably talked enough. Oh, I forgot. No, I didn't. My other piece of housekeeping is that the service that I use for all of these live streams is not free to me. And let me actually find the banner because I know I have one. It's this. So if you're so inclined and you feel like a tip or a donation to help keep these live streams going, I would greatly appreciate it, only if you're inclined and if you're in a position to do so. I completely understand if you're not, because many times I'm not. And so, but anything helps at this point. I end up getting charged monthly for this service that I use. And again, anything helps, but only if you're in a position to do so and you feel so inclined. So I'll leave that up for a few more seconds, and then we're going to get to our symposium, which is awesome. Okay, that's enough. So my guests today, I want to bring all of them in instead of doing one by one. So we have, let's see, how do I do this? I'll start with the guest that has probably known me the longest, or has known me the longest. And she is an amazing pop singer, songwriter, recording artist that is now based here in Seattle, but is from the East Coast. And that's MARIAH BELGROD. And then we're going to also have a wonderful singer, songwriter that's got a bit of a rock and country thing going on from New Jersey, Sydney, Sherwood. And then from up in Toronto, we have another young, there's so much talent in this group of three people. Singer, songwriter, pop, indie kind of vibe going on, named AVIV. So I'm going to bring all three of them in right now, and we're going to get to this symposium.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody. How are you all doing?
Good.
I'm doing as well as you could be doing in the circumstances of this world we live in.
That's
Very
fair.
true.
Very true.
Okay, well, yeah, that is a good way to kind of quantify it in terms of what's been going on. But all three of you have a lot of things going on musically, and I'm looking forward to talking about that and also playing some clips later on in this session. But thank you so much for joining me again. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
For having us. I'm lucky to be with these three people and two talented female artists. So hi.
Yes, it's
Same
definitely
here.
It's definitely a pleasure.
Awesome. So let's kind of start with where things are at now, and then we'll kind of poke around through the music backgrounds, industry, all that kind of thing. But I'm curious, with putting out singles, which all of you have done, and that seems to be kind of the format that most our musicians are doing these days. They're really not doing the album first and then doing the singles off of it. They're doing the singles first and then they put out an album. And you're all quite young compared to me. So I'm wondering, do you think that's going to be kind of the wave of the future, that people are going to continue, and musicians are going to continue to put out singles instead of doing the whole album kind of a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so, especially like with how kind of all the social media and Spotify works. Like you have to be so consistent to continue growing. So like working on an album for a year and releasing it, you might lose followers along the way. Whereas if you're like dropping singles once every couple months, then you're going to be picking up new fans. So I think like with how immediate everyone wants content, I think it's the way to go.
Okay.
Personally.
Anybody else?
I mean, yeah. I totally
Go
agree
ahead.
with sorry, I didn't.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Perks of virtual world. Sorry. I was gonna say, like, yeah, I totally agree with that. I think like monthly consistency is just something that was really apparent in the new months. I agree that like kind of disappearing for a year is not really reality for people, especially newer artists and stuff like that. I also think that EPs have been so much more in the mainstream, and I've seen so many more EPs in comparison to like these full albums, how we used to do. And it just shows like people's attention span, I feel like also throughout the years, like slowly decreased, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I did an interview recently, and the guy was asking me, he's like, why did you stop at 6 songs? And I was like, main reason is when you're an independent artist and you're like self-funding, everything is budget, right? You know, it's like so hard to really put content out all the time. But he said the other reason is because people's attention spans are lower now. And I feel like something also is like in this business, like if you really want people to follow you and like you want to have a good following, consistently putting out music is a huge thing for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that actually does make sense to me, that the social media world that we live in now, that if you're not kind of keep putting tidbits out, then you do kind of get forgotten, even just on a general level, let alone a music level. Wow.
Yeah. Times have definitely changed. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
which as like an
Seriously.
artist is exhausting to constantly be coming up with new material or trying to be original, you know, or staying on like up with the trends that are happening. And, you know, music has been changing so much. Like this year, there's going to be a lot more rock and pop music. So like me as an artist, I was like kind of riding along the trend of like the 80s synth things last year, and that's kind of like fading out of music. So
Yeah.
you know, it's just like keeping up with things and getting things out quickly is exhausting, but it keeps you driven.
For
I
sure.
agree.
Okay, and kind of on the same line, so how exhausting is it keeping up like your social media presence then? Because all three of you do that a lot.
I'm so
Yeah.
bad at it. I'm so
Yeah,
bad
same.
at it.
Honestly, there will be some times where I'm like, I just disappear for a week just because like either I do a lot of covers or like I'm not inspired to do a cover and I'm like, I should be doing this every week. But there are some times where I just like go missing off of social media and I'm like, I really should be on it more. But sometimes I feel like you need that break. So I feel like when you're a musician and you're using social media, it's like so hard to find that balance of like
Yeah.
your own personal like sanity and health and then like putting content out, you know. It's definitely a tough balance,
Especially because like content has to be like engaging and something interesting, and like every day is the same because of COVID. Like I don't feel like inspired to, and I feel like that's the thing about social media, Mark. I think we talked about this last time about how like social media, like really all social media is showing up your jazzed up life or these little elements that make your life so special. But I feel like everything's so remote now, and so the world, like everything's changed. There's not as much I feel like I can put out there into the world that would be engaging or people would be interested in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like you can only do a day in my life as an artist, like when your day is the same 7 days a week at this point. Like I want to see your breakfast every day, or like I go for a walk every day. I'm like, that's exciting, you know. It's things like, and I totally agree with you, Sydney, on like just finding that balance as an artist. I mean, I think it's really respectable when people can, because you're gonna burn out if you don't, you know, and then you're just not gonna be passionate and happy doing like what you're doing if you're just exhausted constantly.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
For sure. Mark, are you feeling the same thing with like your stuff too, about that? You do you also have to like consistently post?
Yes. For me, being really late to the social media game, I get really tired of it. I'll be completely honest. I feel this like pending push, like, hey, it's Monday morning. Did you put up a post about who you're talking to on Tuesday? Oh,
Yeah.
people know about what's happening Wednesday. Did you put it between your stories, your posts, and other platforms? And then after a while, I start getting confused about what did I do, and I have to go back and look at my stuff.
Yeah, literally same.
Go to those archives.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh. So no, I feel that pressure from that sense. I also know that it's a numbers game. So like pre-COVID for me, from the media side, publicists will always ask for my numbers. They want analytics. So they want to know my reach. They want to know my platforms. They want to know all this kind of stuff. They will look. And so if I don't keep it up, then eventually you kind of fade away in their eyes, and they'll start going with people that have larger followings and a further reach and that kind of thing. And for me, I just have to find kind of the happy medium, because some people, I'll get to a point where I'm like, if you want someone that has a bigger reach or a bigger audience, then so be it, because I'm not going to like kill myself to get that audience just to please you and the artist that you represent.
Yeah,
totally.
But
sure.
it's a fine line, though. It really is.
And another aspect is like for example, Instagram, like the algorithm is constantly changing, and like I feel as if like before the likes were the best, and then it was comments, and now it's if people save and bookmark your posts, and it's like trying to create content around that to keep a high engagement or not have to like pay for ads constantly, or it's sad.
It's
Yeah,
weird. Like,
it's
I'm
really
from
so
Canada.
annoying.
I don't even see likes. I don't in Canada. Weird,
Oh.
because they wanted to do like an experiment, so they removed likes. Like, I can't see the number of likes any post gets.
That's so
Yeah.
weird.
That would be
That's
so weird
different.
for me, yeah.
So
And that's
it's so
hard
weird.
when people
I
like
feel
buy
like-
followers. That's how I kind of see if like people are like buying followers or like, you know, things
Yeah,
that
yeah.
look at that ratio.
Mhm.
So that would be weird for me. It would be like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. I feel like also the amount of people that see stories is like so much more than posts. And that's like the hardest thing is because like I always make sure that I'm like teasing something on my story because chances are like nobody's going to see it when I post it. And it never used to be like that. I feel like it's only like the last couple of years that that's been happening, but I
For
feel
sure.
like getting your stuff seen is like so hard now. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I
agree.
don't know if you guys feel this. I feel like less people are online.
Yeah.
I feel I don't know about you. Like, I feel like my engagement's gone down so much in COVID.
Oh my
'cause-
gosh, same.
Yeah.
Literally same.
Yeah.
And like I totally understand. I mean, I've obviously stepped away from I've taken a lot of social media breaks this last year and like I've
Mhm.
lost followers and people have just told me like, hey, I can't like look at people's lives being happy because that makes mine sad. So, you know, it's just like understanding the balance that people are going through mentally and whatever they're going through, like they might not just want to listen to music or be online, like just understanding, but also not letting that impact you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and AVIV, I think even for me, the same thing happened. I saw an increase like in the spring when COVID first happened, and then it went the other way when people, it's like they're just tired of all the virtual, tired of just everything, and so they're taking their own breaks from things. And you were mentioning about like there's only so much you can talk about and post about for you know on your daily lives. I brought to mind this. I had to review this advanced movie a while ago, and it was shot during quarantine during the pandemic, but it was like following, I think it was about 5 different people's lives, and they're all the same. It's like they're stuck at home. Why did you make a movie about this?
So interesting.
Yeah, it was like, okay, so if this person gets up and does this, and they get on their laptop and they do that, and then the next person did the exact same thing. It was like, there's 2 hours of this I have to watch. And so it's like, yeah, that maybe the idea was kind of cool to try to do it, to bringing people together during quarantine time about what they're doing in their lives. And you realize it's all the same pretty much.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like people are so diverse, but there's something beautiful about kind of sharing that in a sense. Like, it's like weird because, you know, people are so unique and different, but at the same time you're saying like everyone's kind of going through it together. So it's cool.
Yeah, a big time of self-reflection too. Like I feel like a lot of people were saying like, oh, I wish I had more time to do this, or you know, I wish I could try this hobby or have time to watch this movie. And now people like were able to slow down and like self-reflect and do those things. So I feel like after quarantine there's no excuses. If you haven't picked up the hobby you want to do, like
get to it.
Yeah, now's your time.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think I've mentioned this in some of my interviews that when there were certain guests that it felt so strange that I could contact them directly and also find out, hey, so when's a good time in your schedule? They're like, Mark, pick a day. what am I doing? I'm not doing anything because there's no film sets to be on. There's no tour going on. And so, yeah, like what AVIV was saying, I felt like I was kind of in the same boat with them, which is cool, but it's also kind of surreal to think that someone that I saw like on a Broadway tour is sitting at home doing exactly what I'm doing, which is like looking at TV and, you know, doing my laundry or whatever I'm doing. I don't think about things like that, but it was happening time and time again when I was booking guests, especially during the Alice tour stuff. But it made my life easier that I could get a hold of people.
Less scheduling conflicts.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. That was just, and even like I mentioned with my intro, the one that I have coming up with all the directors, some of them are still in quarantine, but a couple of them aren't. So I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're going to be off, you know, shooting something and location scouting. And so it was really kind of interesting to say who's in lockdown. Like in Germany, my director is in lockdown, but then in Australia, the one isn't, but in New Zealand, they're back in lockdown.
Yeah.
So Mark, we can do it whenever, and
especially like the film world. It's so interesting how like film has adapted. I think so. I actually started out in acting. That was like my main thing. So once in a while, I'll get auditions, and like auditions are online, and they book people online. That's crazy.
Yeah,
and then they just book these actors just online, and then they just walk in. It's like our first perceptions or perceptions. I can't talk English today. Our first the first time we see people, our first impressions on them is just like so virtual. It's so crazy.
Yeah. But I feel like at the same time too, like this has been such a great tool because especially like now that like you can't travel or anything like that, like I literally haven't gone anywhere other than like driving to upstate New York. Like I haven't left.
Yeah.
So being able to like do this kind of stuff and like have it be virtual, but then like still connect with people has been really cool. But I'm hoping that eventually at some point, like the more in-person aspect, like just I don't know, like it just appears again because I'm like dying for like that kind of in-person thing because I feel like there's only so much that online can do, you know, and like actually seeing people and in person is a completely different thing. So I'm hoping that, I mean, maybe by the summer, I have no idea. I can't predict anything because everything that I've ever tried to predict has went out the window through this entire time. But yeah, I hope that like it starts to trend upwards and that we could start doing more things outside and seeing people and stuff like that.
Much more fulfilling to like be in person and like create. And I mean, meeting new people online has been awesome. And I've met so many new people over COVID, but I also just like miss making that in-person connection. And like after a show, having someone come up to me and talk to me and like, you know, just, I don't know, connecting is I'm missing that.
Yeah, definitely. For sure.
Yeah, no, I'm missing the same thing because I had a check-in email from one of the publicists who I haven't heard from in probably 6 months that books a lot of the shows here in Seattle. And she's like, Mark, I'm just checking to see, are you still alive? And are you still, what are you doing now? Because she didn't really know. She hasn't been following anything. So it's actually kind of fun to be able to update her on everything that's happened in the last year. It's like, well, here's the 105 interviews I did. Here's all the film reviews I did. And she was really blown away by that. I said, well, you found a way to pivot during this. And I'm like, I wish I had a grand plan because I didn't. It was completely organic the way it happened.
Yeah.
But I am so thankful that it did happen. But it was kind of nice just to kind of get that email from her to just kind of say, yeah, what's going on with you? And are you okay? And because they're getting ready to bring some theater back here, hopefully in the fall. So yeah. Yeah.
I have so many friends on Broadway that are like counting. Like they just stay there like and they're like counting the days so they can go back on stage and just have the lights hit them and all those feelings rush back.
Same with live shows. Oh my God. I want to go live and like tour so bad.
Same.
Especially writing all this new music. You're like, I want to share this with the world.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so strange to see like all the different places, like some states that are like open and I see like people playing shows and I'm like, you know, you can't even like rent a venue here really. Like to do any kind of project and it could only be like you and your band or whatever. And they're like, no. And then I see other states and they're like actually having shows and I'm like, what is going on?
Crazy.
But I really hope like by the summertime because I would love to just get out and play and just like see people and have that interaction and share the new music. Yeah, I'm hoping that that's a thing soon for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, and Sydney, do you have plans to go back to Tennessee anytime soon?
Yeah, I'm actually going back in March, which will be the first time that like I've ever left since quarantine started. But a friend of mine is in Tennessee. He's a country artist, and we're gonna do a duet together with my producer in Nashville. So I'm really excited about that. And like I said, it's like the first time I'm gonna be like going anywhere else other than the tri-state area. So I'm excited.
That's so exciting.
And I'm looking forward to recording. Yeah.
But the reason I mentioned that is the guest that I interviewed on Friday is in Tennessee, and she was saying that the laws or whatever for COVID are a little bit more lax there. So she's been able to play. I think it's like 50% capacity or something, but she has been able to play when she wants to. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know in terms of COVID spreading, but the opportunity might be there when you go back or in March to maybe
to actually play places. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even if it's just one gig somewhere or something, you might be able to do it because it sounds like it's much more lax compared to being in Jersey.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. I've been seeing it. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if it's like you said, it could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. But I like all my friends that are there, they're like playing in places and everybody's just like making it like it's not really a big deal. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing or if they're fine or if they're not, but you know, I feel like you gotta kind of like assess the situation with that, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, as long as like you're following whatever the guidelines are for your state or area, like that you're doing the best you can, right?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up a question for all three of you about so when you all started in your respective careers, particularly for the music side of things, because like AVIV, I know you've got theater and other things going on as well, and acting. That how did you eventually get the team that's around you? So if it's managers, producers, you know, how did you find these people, and have there been ups and downs with that process?
I don't. Does anyone want to go first?
Anybody?
Take it away.
Yeah, I think so. I've been really lucky. I'm pretty young, so I always really had that parental support, and my parents were always really keen on, you know, you're a young female, a young girl in this industry, maybe take this time to really develop your sound before we kind of go to anyone. And I got really lucky because I had a mom and a dad who just were so supportive. My dad would like spend nights researching how to get onto editorial Spotify playlists and all sorts of stuff like that. Like they really helped me out. And at a certain time, like I was kind of, not that my dad I called my mom momager, like my little momager.
That's what I call my mom too.
Yeah, I love that. But yeah, and then I released some songs on my own, and then eventually got to the point where I just needed that extra aid, and I was pointed to my absolutely amazing team and managers from Toronto, and I actually met them following COVID measures and stuff in Toronto in the city, and they're absolutely amazing. And just since then, they've kind of introduced me to more of my team, kind of my producers and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm really lucky. But I owe a lot of it to my parents. They definitely gave me that gear. They took me to the place. They took me as far as they could take me. And then now I have just an amazing team. So I'm very lucky. Very, very
That's
lucky.
awesome.
Yeah.
Seriously. I hope it keeps growing
like
that way.
the same. Yeah, seriously. Mine's kind of like the same too. My parents are super supportive, which I'm like very thankful because I know like people who really, you know, can't say the same. And they really believed in my dream 100%. But you know, I think my first EP is when I kind of met everybody that's like in my circle, like the guys that I play with. I was recording at the studio, and the guy who owned the studio was like, let me just put a band together for you. And the guitarist of the band is my producer in New Jersey, and he's like literally a dad to me. I love him so much, and his family is amazing, and we've become so close. And then I met Brian Craddock through a meet and greet at a Daughtry show. And then we just kind of started talking and became friends. And now I work with him in Nashville and remotely at my house. But it's been really cool. Like, and I always like really am so thankful that like God placed all of them in my life, because like they are such a core team and I trust them so much. And a huge thing for me and for, I feel like anybody in the industry, is trust with people. And like I trust everybody that I work with 100%. So it's really a blessing.
Yeah, that's so important to have that trust and like have that support, because in those days where you feel crappy about what you're doing, like you have those people to like uplift your spirit. I mean, like I relate with the parent thing. My parents weren't like managers, but they were definitely like just always supportive. They have no musical background or talent, so they were just always like my number one supporters from afar. But I moved to Seattle with some like opportunities out here from like a small town in Pennsylvania to here. And I had like a team when I first came out here, but we had like creative differences, and I didn't feel like my vision was being like seen. And I didn't have that trust 100%. So like for the last year, I've been completely independent with like no team, just kind of me doing it. And I
That's
felt
awesome,
like,
though.
thank you. Yeah,
That's
I felt like really
such an
free.
accomplishment. Yeah.
Thank you. And I've had like the most growth in this last year. And I think it's just because I've been staying true to me and like just doing what I want to do. But I'm definitely more than welcome to having like a team grow, especially I'm getting to the point where things are like very overwhelming, where having a manager kind of making connections for me when I'm trying to do my social media content and everything would be helpful. But it is hard to find those people that you really, really trust, especially when you can't get out and make those in-person connections.
For sure. And I think that's something that has like always kind of been my goal. And I've been really blessed to like kind of get that, is people that just also support you being you. Cause I feel like if music is put out and it's not authentic, you're not fully satisfied with it. So definitely finding a team that just supports your vision creatively and kind of leaves that creative world up to you and is just kind of there to support and to guide and
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, seriously. I completely agree.
Yeah, there's been many times when I always say I'm going to fire my assistant, then I realize that's me because I don't have one.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you like make a mistake, I like being able to just like put it back on myself. Be like, I learned for next time. I know how to do it better, and I can't get mad at anyone but myself.
Yeah, no, that happens a lot when I look at my schedule and I'm like, who the hell scheduled all this stuff? And I was, oh yeah.
Like, wait, I'm my own assistant.
Spin around in your chair. It's me.
Yeah, take a look in the mirror, Mark. It's you. There's your assistant and your manager and your publicist and all rolled into one.
Photographer.
Yeah, photographer. All that stuff's there. Well, that sounds great though that you guys have, not only do you have teams, but that you're, I would say, smart enough to know that vision needs to be authentic to you. That whatever, no matter how great it is outside, and they might have some influences or things that they want to suggest to you. At the end of the day, it's got to be coming from you, and that's where, like what AVIV was saying, that authenticity part, it's got to be 100% accurate, because then you can grow off of that. If it's something that you don't feel like it's completely you, and then someone say, "Oh, this will help sell more records or get you more plays or more streams," eventually that'll bite you in the butt.
Yeah, seriously.
And fans know, like people can tell. I feel like people are drawn to like when someone's being genuine and authentic, as opposed to, you can tell when someone's like farm feeding content out.
For sure. It's so easy. On one hand, I think it is really easy to tell when things are fabricated, but at the same time, going back to the social media thing we were talking about, I also think that it's so easy for that to get slipped under the surface as well, and for people to not come across authentic and kind of fake that. So yeah, it's really interesting but I feel like if it's not you, there's no point of doing it, because you won't be passionate about it. And if it's not fun and if it's not supportive, then there won't be that spark and there won't be that connection. So
totally.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, especially with like what you listen to on the radio these days, and you say like, what went into making that song? Like, was the purpose to get on the radio and to get 1 million streams on Spotify, or was the purpose to touch somebody? And that's something that I really like. I always say it, like, if somebody was like, you're going to make a record that is like not anything that I would do, but it's going to sell and you're going to make millions of dollars, like, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. And I know people might think that that's crazy because that's a lot of money, but like, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that because it's not true to who I am. And I feel like that's what you see with like a lot of independent artists that are like trying to break through. And I feel like why it is so hard is because for all of us, it's like, you want to put out something that you're proud of and that you know is true to who you are, and you're not trying to fake it and be something that you're not. And then, when you hear what's on the radio and it's like, that the purpose of why that was created was just to sell, it's like, kind of, that aspect is kind of annoying to me, but I feel like staying true to who you are, there's, like you said, AVIV, there's no point in even releasing it if you don't love it,
Yeah. It's like viewing your listeners as people as opposed to numbers.
I feel it. And going back, I mean, I think we're all girls, and I think there's always just that perception of what the female voice or the female sound or the female look really needs to be, especially because we're young too. I think that has just always been such a forward thing that my parents have pushed me. It's like, no, release what you feel right. Don't release what the world perceives as a female sound or a female voice or an image.
Totally.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's interesting that you bring that up too, because I feel like there have been people in my life who are like, well, your range isn't really big enough and your voice is very low for a female. And like, people ask me like, who are your female influences? And I'm like, I don't really have many, just because of where my voice sits and like my register. I feel like it leans more like male. And I've had people like say to me before, like, well, your voice should be, your range should be bigger. And it's like, why can't what you do and like who you are be enough, so I completely agree with you on that for sure.
You're like, the range I have, I can do amazing things with. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
I was about to
say.
say,
Somebody says
like,
something.
I was gonna say, yeah, like that's a very big gift. Low register, I love that. That's so good.
Most of my favorite
Thank
female
you.
artists have a low register. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think this is actually a good time. Speaking of like different ranges and different types of songs and styles that you guys do, I'm going to play one of the 30-second clips from one of you, and we'll air that right now, and then we'll come back and perhaps that artist can talk about that a little bit in terms of what we're going to watch. So let me see what I have queued up here. That's my assistant won't do anything for me.
It's time to fire the assistant, Mark.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to find good help these days, I swear. Okay, so Sydney, you're up first. Let's go with this one.
But now you'll never take. I'm afraid you'll stay the same. I gave you every chance. You threw my heart around. I only picked you up, and you only let me down. You let me down.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow. Sorry. That was so loud.
Thank you.
Over here vibing.
I happen to love this the unplugged version of "Let Me Down." I probably like it more actually than the recorded version. So
That's awesome. Yeah.
What can you tell us about it?
So Let Me Down, I wrote a while ago with one of my favorite songwriters. And it was like I wrote it after I had gotten over somebody I had feelings for some time. And like during that whole period, it was just like being let down constantly. And writing that song was kind of like my revelation point and like the moment where I realized like I deserve more. And you know, the way that I wrote it originally was similar to the unplugged version. And I was like, you know what, like I love it this way, but I want it to have more of like a vibe and be more driven that like people can listen to and not be like, oh, it's just sad, you know? So that's where the unplugged version kind of like came out of. And the guy that you saw, that was my producer, Ron. I love him so much. And then his friend, Andy, who's a really good friend of mine as well. And that's kind of where that song came from. It's one of my favorites. And I always say like, Mark and I were talking about it. He was like, have you seen the person that you wrote the song about? And I was like, yeah, last time I saw him was at my high school graduation and we didn't like talk to each other or anything like that. But you know, I think it's really fun that like, even stuff that you go through like that, that's kind of not very nice, you know, and like, you don't really appreciate that kind of situation. Like I got a really cool song out of it and it's one of my favorites off the record. So yeah, that's where that song came from. And I love doing the unplugged version, and the guys that filmed it are phenomenal. They're both extremely talented musicians and artists, and that was a lot of fun to film.
Yeah, no, it came out great. And like, when did you film it? Like, how long ago was this?
We filmed it before Christmas, actually. I think it was like December 20th or something like that. And then we were like figuring out when to release it, and I kind of wanted it a little bit closer to the EP release date. So we picked Friday of last week.
Okay, awesome.
That's so recent. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank
Seriously,
you.
congrats.
Thank
It's so
you.
exciting.
Thanks.
Sydney, can I ask you kind of a random question about this? I know you posted a picture of your producer and his friend and yourself in the studio. There's like a picture of you guys. I think I saw on social
Yeah,
media.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Are those guys super tall or?
It was the angle of the photo. I'm
Okay.
5'6". I'm not that short. I look at myself sometimes, I'm like, man, I really am short. But the photographer, he was like taking it, like he kneeled down and he was taking it from like that angle.
Okay.
So they look like giants and I look very small, but I think it was just the angle of the photo.
Okay. See, that means you're already an inch taller than me because I'm 5'5". So I just saw that photo. I'm like, wow, those guys like 6'8" or something.
No, I think they're not super tall, but I definitely looked very small in that picture for sure.
Okay, no, again, that's just a random thing that I noticed. So I'm like, okay, I'll have to ask her when we do this on Sunday. And like Mariah, I know I was thinking back, like when we did our interview during the Alice tour, you performed Unplugged with Jeffrey. And I think it actually was Team Player, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did my months are blurred, but yeah, Jeffrey and I did like an Unplugged Team Player. I don't remember when I released it, honestly. I think like November, but we filmed it back like last August, and I always love the Unplugged version because that's how my songs are written, so it's cool to just take it to that raw, stripped back, without all the production and the synths and everything, and just have it be like how you were when you were writing it in your bedroom.
For sure.
Okay, and then AVIV, like I mentioned before we went live, that you're a part of the Twitch stream for Spin, and that was pretty much you with like a backing track, or what was going on with that song?
Yeah. It was really funny because I just like got the call that I was doing it like really recent, so I had to just put a bunch of stuff together. So my dad has a stereo system up in his office, so I was like, Dad, I'm so sorry, I'm just gonna clear everything from your office and I'm gonna make myself a little set. And yeah, like you said, it's just really interesting because it gives you like that really intimate look on to people. They hear the full production always, they don't really see the bits and pieces that get pieced together into the final product. So it was cool to kind of share that intimate experience with people and that intimate side of the song.
Let them into your world.
Into the little songwriting world.
Well, that's actually probably a great segue. So let's go to the next clip, which will be AVIV's performance from that Twitch stream.
Say chase your dreams, I try, yet they chase me through the night. Act like I'm alright, just like nothing's on my mind. I used to stay up all night, dissecting the thoughts in my mind, looking down on my lows, forgetting about my highs. I don't wanna feel like this, I just want emotions fixed, I just wanna feel something, don't wanna be a lonely bitch.
Oh, she's a dancer.
So good.
She's a dancer. She got dance
I love
moves.
the set. That looks so cool. I love it.
Did you paint the clouds in the background?
Oh, I have a projector, so I project.
Oh,
that's good. Very innovative. I would have been like, oh, what am I doing? That's so good.
Thank you. Oh God, I can't look at me. I can't look at me dance. That was really scary.
And AVIV, can you talk about are there specific things in that refrigerator? Like you wanted to have like a teddy bear, or you wanted to have certain things?
I got him right here. It says the name of my song on it.
That's so cute.
My team sent little teddy bears to like some people that were just a part of the project as like a thank you, and to just so I'm in love with it. My dog like claimed it. He's in love with it. He like made it his goal to just like attack it. So
new toy.
Oh, and AVIV, I wanted to ask you this because I know it's like on, I think the cover of the single, there's a parental advisory sticker or whatever. Probably for the bitch word is my guess, right?
Well, okay. The truth behind the parental advisory was like, I texted my managers and I said, guys, do I put it on? Do I put it not? And they just both agreed that it's so much cooler with it on. It like makes me feel like a cool kid. So I said, yeah, I'll add it. Why not? But yeah, so that's why I added it. But I didn't like get a notification that I had to add it. It was just I want to do it because it's cool. So that's really it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just for me, when I saw that, I flash back because I'm so old to when that stuff actually happened in the 80s with the whole PMRC movement and Tipper Gore trying to get records banned, and you had to buy them from behind the shelf and all this kind of stuff. So when I saw that on your picture with the pizza and all that kind of thing, I was like, oh, did that actually have some sort of issue because of the word, or was it something that's more like it'd be kind of fun to throw it on there?
Well, usually, so I usually do my distro I usually distribute my songs through DistroKid, and they always have that explicit lyrics section where they ask you if your song has explicit lyrics, and obviously it says bitch in it. So I thought, why not just add it just in case? Because I wouldn't want to risk it, not being pitched to Spotify or something.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, just to be on the safer side.
Okay, and last but definitely not least, let's watch a little bit from Mariah's video for Team Player.
Why do me dirty? Playing your games, always fighting a 30, and it's all the same. Acting all fly, bragging to the guys, trying to steal the show. Secrets and lies, sneaking at night. I think you ought to know you should be a team player, not just a player. Otherwise I say goodbye, I'll see you later. Cold-blooded, you shouldn't wonder why I left you with the rearview mirror. Don't act so surprised, it's true. Everything was me and you. Team player, play on.
Yay!
I love it.
I was going to say, like, that's a song that I would so listen to.
Thank you.
Seriously, so catchy.
It is very catchy. I like before releasing it, I wasn't sick of it, and then after like the first month of release, I was like, all right, I'm kind of tired of hearing my voice sing this song. But thank you.
Yeah, so Mariah, what can you tell us about how you shot that music video?
Yeah, Team Player, we shot that over COVID, so definitely was trying to think of like locations that there wouldn't be a lot of people around, so we like scouted out basketball courts in Seattle area. I mean, like different parks and things where people wouldn't be around. But I shot it with a guy named Trevor Grehel, who shot my first music video, Lie to Me, and it was me, Trevor, and my partner Jeffrey, who also helped me write the song, my co-writer on it. He's my fiance too, so woohoo.
Oh, that's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. So just the three of us, we went out and shot it over like 2 12-hour days, and it was just a lot of fun just to kind of just let loose and try out different like quirky things and kind of see what stuck, just be creative together. And that was definitely like the one thing over quarantine that really fulfilled my creative spirit. Yeah, so it was just fun to make a music video that was just kind of like felt empowering to me, just like how the song makes me feel when I listen to it.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It came out really, really well. I mean, I remember when I first saw it back in the fall. I was like, wow, look at that. And so did you want to incorporate like you're saying, you know, the basketball courts and the tennis courts, and those your ideas, or where'd they kind of come from?
Yeah, those are my ideas. The song is Team Player, and like I like puns and kind of how words have different meanings. So like being a player in a relationship versus being like a team player like in a sports or in like a cooperative group, you know, I was like, let's embody this in different ways. So like the sport was like being a team player, and I mean tennis you don't have a team on tennis, but you know, I was limited on options. But
it looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to like I'm not very sporty too, like I'm super awkward and can't run, but I was like, I'm gonna try and look cool and natural in a sport area.
Okay, and you know, Mariah, that we're kind of talking about this for people out there that are watching that don't know. When we first started talking, you were telling me about Smule, and at that time I didn't know what that was or anything. And now I definitely know what it is. But can you kind of bring up maybe the older folks that are watching that don't know what it is? What is that, and how you got involved with it?
Yeah, so Smule is like a singing app where it's kind of, there's tracks and you kind of like go through a record store and you pick out what track you want to sing. It can be like a pop song or an R&B song. And then you record a version of yourself recording a song, and the lyrics are split up by colors. And then you post it, and then someone else can join and make that song their own with harmonies or singing the other half. So I started on Smule like 4 years ago and kind of like took off and grew a lot over the last 4 years, and I'm really grateful because that kind of pushed me. I, like AVIV, started out in musical theater when I was little, and then I evolved to want to be a pop artist because of Smule, and it's created a ton of opportunity along the way, and I've met a lot of people. That's how my fiance and I was on the app. So
that's awesome.
Thank you.
Wait, we need a story time. You can't just say that. What?
I'll just like casually slide that in. But yeah, he lived here in Seattle and I lived in Pennsylvania, and we started singing together on the app, and then we just started like texting each other and Skype calling and writing music, and then we decided
and now he's your fiance.
Yeah, no big deal.
That's so cute. I love that.
Yeah. So Smule has changed my life in a lot of ways. We'll say that for sure.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, just like you said, from especially even from the life side of it, that, you know, when you met Jeffrey and then, you know, you came over to Seattle, and that's actually when I met you. I think was roughly 2 summers ago, or almost 2 summers ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Crazy.
now you got a ring on your finger, and
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I never would have even have visited Seattle if I hadn't had downloaded the app, and now I've lived here for 3 years. So
That's
crazy.
awesome.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
the
then
internet, man, will change your life.
and Sydney, I want to bring something up with you that, and I think I texted you after we did the first interview where I was like, man, I'm a ding dong. I didn't realize I had your entire EP in my inbox. I'd only listened like to the first part of the first song or something, and I was intrigued by what I heard. So that's why I reached out to the publicist, who then got a hold of you, and we scheduled everything. But the one song that, as much as I love "Let Me Down," but "Creep" to me, it really is on a whole other level in terms of the lyrically and everything that you and your family had gone through. And I'm just wondering if you are okay with kind of speaking about the lyrics behind that and what was going on with that song.
Yeah, totally. So, I wrote "Creep" with my producer Brian last February, so a year ago. And I went into the studio, and I struggle with anxiety, and I struggle with depression and PTSD. So I went in and I was like, I don't really want to write a song about anxiety. And we sat there, and then we started writing, and then it kind of turned into that. And I feel like with the song, I not only wanted it to like shed light on that issue, because I feel like a lot of people try and hide it, and now it's becoming more of like an acceptable thing to say that you have it and that you struggle with it. But another part of the song is that I wanted it to be like a visual aid for people who didn't understand what it was like to have anxiety or go through a panic attack and stuff like that, because I felt like when I was going through it, people would just be like, oh, just be positive, forget about it, just try and get your mind off of it. And it's like those things, like they mean well, but it's really kind of like a destructive thing to say, because if I could only like escape the thoughts in my own head, obviously I would have done that already, So I wanted the song to be a visual aid for people who may not understand. And that song, I mean, it's probably my favorite that I've ever released, and it's super meaningful to me. And then, some of the lyrics in that song are like very personal to my experience. And the feedback that I got from the song was just like incredible, really. I like couldn't even believe it. So many people were saying that it helped them, or they were going to send it to somebody, that was struggling with it. And then even people who didn't understand what it was like thank you for showing me, because I never understood. And like, that was a really cool part of the song. But that's probably, I mean, all of my songs are about like my own life and my own experiences and stuff like that. But that was probably one of the most meaningful that I've ever released.
Yeah, that sounds just, I really want to hear the song right now.
Yeah, same. I know, I'm listening to it up. Yeah, and like, thank you for being so vulnerable. Like, I also manage and deal with anxiety and depression, and I'm a lot of creatives do, and I think it's awesome that so many people are talking about it and being vulnerable, and makes people feel a lot less alone. So
yeah, exactly, for sure. I completely agree, and I feel like if you do struggle with it, like it shouldn't be like a taboo kind of thing where you're like, oh, I feel like everybody is literally in it together, and I feel like the pandemic kind of showed us all of that, and especially during the pandemic with mental health and stuff like that. But I'm a huge like advocate for it, and I feel like I am so open about it because I know what it feels like to feel like nobody else is going through what you're going through, and I just want to be able to help people through that.
Yeah, and I feel like it makes me respect people so much more when they tell me that, because I'm like, damn, you do all this crap and you like have all these inner demons, like, and you still get all this work done, and and you still accomplish all these things, and it makes things a lot harder for you to accomplish those things maybe than someone who doesn't have it. So it's kind of like really respectable.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. And Sydney, we kind of talked about this during your interview, that for myself, I'm in the same boat. So I know exactly what it's like to work through depression and anxiety issues, and I've had them for probably more than 10 years at least. And then what Mariah just said, some people here's that where that whole social media kind of gleam goes away, because people don't realize that sometimes for me it could be a real struggle just to kind of get anything together, and then I'll find a way to get through it. And there's also times when I end up canceling something, and it's because of those issues. It's not because of anything else. I'm not as open about it. I just kind of put it out there every now and then when I want to. But at the same time, there's been times where I'm like, F it, I'm going to kind of talk about some of these things, because it is important to talk about it. And also for people to know that my life's not perfect. It's far from that.
Yeah.
And I'm real just like anybody else, and I'm going to have a really great day and I could have a really bad day. I mean, it's just going to happen, especially during this time. But somehow,
Literally.
yeah, you find ways to relate to people, you find ways to connect, and you also find ways to push forward. Yeah, keep your dream alive, and whatever you're passionate about, you keep doing it. And you don't let those demons take that away from you. Is the way I kind of look at it. For me, it's really like a fight. And so, and I'm going to win.
Yeah, put those boxing gloves on. I mean, like, and it's funny because I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like, I've had anxiety from memories from when I was like 7 years old, and I didn't know what it was back then. And people were just telling me like, you're being dramatic or you're so sensitive. And it's like, no, like if I would have understood, you know, these feelings, I think I would have like done so much more in my life, because I would have found ways to cope and, you know, push on. But I'm just glad I discovered it when I did, and now I'm at where I'm at now in my life.
For sure.
Yeah, and Aviv, in your case, I know we kind of talked a little. Well, we talked about cookie dough. I remember that about the video, but also like I was watching Front Lawn, that video of yours. I think it's at Front Lawn and Front Porch. No, Front Lawn, right?
Front Lawn. Yeah, you got it perfect. You know what? I don't get it. How do you remember so many like names of songs and stuff? Like the amount of all the stuff you listen to and all the interviews you have. How do you remember everything from all your interviews?
Yeah, exactly. My memory is terrible. So I really commend you on that, Mark, because I would not be able to remember everything.
Well, I appreciate that. The reason I'm laughing is big, and people who have been watching, especially the interviews since about the summertime, know that I turned 50 in June because I'm a Gemini. June 16th is my birthday. Yeah, and some things I will remember. If you wanted me to like rattle off the different incarnations of Iron Maiden, for example, I could probably do it. And they've had so many different lineups over the years. It's like, why do I remember this stuff? And it's something that's really important, like for my job, like my day job or something. I'll be like, you know, 2 days later, I forget what I was supposed to do. So to answer your question, Aviv, I'm not really sure how I know, other than I do have a vested interest in the artists that I talk to. So it's important to me to, just as a fan, just listening to the things. So yeah, I was watching your work again. It's like, oh, that's really cool. And it's really, really kind of quirky. And I like that there's like this kind of indie vibe going on with some of that stuff. And so I don't know, it just kind of sticks and gets tattooed in my brain. But don't hold me to that, because if you ask me like a month from now, I'd be like, so Mark, what'd you think of, you know, those songs I put out? I'm like, well, I remember one of them and thing, but I do think it's because I'm passionate about what I do. And so again, if I have to rattle off the film titles of those directors in a week, I remember Intersection from the director in Australia. And then let's see, Hayden did Dead the movie. Oh God. And then Stefan did Ingenium, who's in Germany. And then if my director in Scotland joins us, he did Rialto. God, I did remember all of them. Okay.
Dang,
that's good.
We'll let them know you remembered.
I'm just a freak of nature. I don't know. But yeah, trust me, there's things that I do forget on a regular basis. And ask my coworker at our jobs, like, did I do that floor or not? And I can't remember if I actually went to that room or whatever. And she'll say, Mark, I saw you go down there and do it like half an hour ago. I'm like, oh, okay. But then she's the same way as I am. So they're like, Mark, did I clean that one area? And I'm like, yeah, I remember you had the bucket with you or whatever. So it's kind of like a comedy of errors watching the two of us at our part-time survival job right now. But I guess I'm kind of glad it stays that way. Hopefully it continues to stay that way. So if it's 10 years from now, I can still remember certain facts about the guests that I've talked to. And even just as a random thing, it dawned on me, I'm a creature of habit, so I'll start getting used to certain things. And so pre-pandemic, then I was doing all my video interviews, obviously in person. I have my camera and I have my tripod, I have my little light and all these kind of things. And I have my still cameras and all that. And then I kept thinking, once I get back to being in person at a live event and doing an interview, I can just bring all that stuff back out again. And then I started thinking about, well, crap, if they have Wi-Fi or a good phone signal, I can just do this. I can just live stream it right from the venue or from the tour.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier for me. And
for sure.
But I didn't think about that until something jogged my brain of like, why do you have to do it the way you did it before? You can actually do the same thing. It'll be that much easier and quicker for you and less gear to lug around. I'm like, I like this idea.
Yeah, that's good.
So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I was fully prepared to dust off my stuff and go back to what I used to do. So I don't know. I'm a weird amalgamation of things from my past for sure.
But it makes you you.
It does, for better or worse. That's what I am. All the works are out there, and that's how we do these things. But so I'm curious with all three of you. Are there things? And we kind of know because Cindy kind of mentioned that she's planning to go to Tennessee in March, next month. What else is coming up? Is there something immediate? Something kind of further down the road?
Maria, go.
All right, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just been like writing a lot. So I've been shopping around for different producers that I feel like are gonna execute the sound that I'm looking for. So I'm kind of going like Team Player was a bit more bubblegum. So I want to kind of go more indie, moody, but not like too drastic to where my fans are like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
But so I've been shopping around at producers to kind of compile, like I have an EP ready, but I just want to get like my head down grinding. But in the meantime, I've been working with a rapper who is out of North Carolina, and he has a pretty good following. And so I did a couple like kind of like G-Eazy and Halsey vibe tracks.
That's awesome.
with him. Yeah, so those will be coming out in like late March on his album. So I'm excited to see people's reaction to that. But that's all I got for now.
I love
Right?
that. Yeah, that's so exciting. I mean, I love Halsey, so anything Halsey, I'll be vibing to it.
You got that low register.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think just like Maria said, just writing a lot. I think I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. If there's something that COVID did teach me is that like it gave me the opportunity to write with people from all over the world. And so yeah, just writing sessions almost every other day, and when songs come up that you love them, so I just am like kind of writing a lot. There's a lot of ideas right now in the air, a whole lot of demos. My demo folder is way too large. It's not good. But yeah, like you said earlier, I think in the live, like consistency is something super important for me. I've kind of made it my goal to release songs monthly on a monthly basis. Obviously, like if I don't have anything that's good content or that I'm passionate or happy with, I won't release it, but definitely try and do that 1 month kind of thing. So I have songs planned out for, I think, till next September. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Your fans are gonna be happy.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm happy.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, and Sydney, anything else you wanted to add on to your March thing that you didn't say?
I think, well, the biggest thing right now is the EP is coming out on my birthday, February 27th. So that's next week. I'm really excited. Yeah. I was thinking of a day.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was thinking of a day and I was like, you know what? I just want to release it on my birthday. I feel like that'll be fun. So that's coming out on the 27th. And then I'm really excited for the trip in March because Kazin, who I'm going to be doing the duet with, he is so talented. And we actually met on American Idol and we became friends, and we're going to be working together, and like our voices like blend really nicely together, and I'm just so excited to like record with another person because I've never done that before. And then like basically like you guys said, just writing continuously. I feel like my schedule, it's even been busy now, which is strange because I'm home like almost all the time, but I've taken a lot of time to just like sit down and write, and like time that I wouldn't have had before. So I've been doing a ton more of that when before I wasn't doing as much of that, and working on other things. So those are like the upcoming things for me.
Okay, and that's awesome. Sounds like everybody's got something going on, and that's like you were saying earlier, and during this whole symposium, that's kind of like having things to put out on that timeline, not just putting it all out at once and then disappearing for a year, and then that doesn't. That's not the model now. That's not at all. And Aviv, when you're talking about having the different demos are basically up through like September, do you also have like video ideas in your head too?
Oh my God, yeah. I don't know if you guys do this too. I write songs with like videos envisioned for them. It just like helps me. Like for example, like I think every single one of my songs sets a setting. So the song that I just released, Lonely Bitch, like I did a video for that because right now Toronto is in lockdown. We're going out of it tomorrow. But
that's so good.
yeah, I had to make that video remotely. No, kind of on my own, which was really interesting. I got one of my siblings to hold a camera, and I got this guy, and we followed measures. He had like an agreement from the government that he was allowed to film, and he came and helped me out. And it was my first time editing my own video, so that was an interesting experience. But yeah, so that's set to release in the next couple of weeks, and then I really want to get, because of COVID, I want to get all my visuals kind of down now that I know we're not in lockdown, just like get them all done so that just in case we're back in lockdown, I'm set, if that makes, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have stuff to release after. That's a good plan.
Because I'm
Stockpile
so
that content.
scared, because like what if I could be in, you don't know, you never know. So you always, I just said to my team, I was like, let's just totally get everything done kind of in the next couple of weeks so we just know we're good to go just in case.
Yeah, it's good to be prepared for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say that's smart. One of the guests I interviewed a while ago, they started doing everything in the summer. So I think all 6 videos, they did all of that during the summertime when things were a little sure they could be outside. The weather's nicer here in Seattle and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it really paid off because, yeah, then we started getting kind of the new restrictions and all that kind of thing. And they can just kind of drop them along that timeline, and that keeps them relevant on. And Sydney, I'm curious, with your EP coming out on the 27th of February, is there any chance that there's going to be any kind of physical release with that, a CD, a vinyl, anything?
Not right now, but it is something that I'm going to be working on for sure. It wasn't something that I was going to do just because of quarantine, and I was like, who's really gonna want a physical, especially that like I couldn't go out and play places, like I couldn't sell them like that. Okay, you want it?
I want one.
So I think that just based on the response from other people, I'm gonna have to do that at some point. I wasn't really expecting it, like I said, because when I did my release show for my first one, we obviously had them because when everybody's there, they're gonna want a physical copy. But I was like, who's really going to want it? And then the more I got into like the process of making this record and having people hear it, people want it. So that's something that I'm probably going to wind up doing.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And AVIV and MARIAH, same thing. Do you have any plans for any kind of physical release of something, music that you're doing?
I've definitely played around with like the vinyl idea. I see things on Pinterest like a bubblegum pink like record and just a really cute thing, and I'm like, oh, I really want to do that. And I've had ideas in the past of like how to do that. And there's actually a friend who did like live recordings on records and in New York City. So that's something I want to do, like an acoustic version of a song and like record individual really tracks. Cool. Yeah, on records, and then people can buy them in advance, and then I kind of know like how many I have to do, so it's not like I'm buying a bunch of stuff and I'm not going to sell it all, because that's always a concern, Yeah, so it's definitely a thought, but it's hard, especially in this age where everything's so digital, but definitely a thought.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I showed you guys my little teddy, so that's something that's something that we've kind of pushed to do, is for every single song release kind of send to PR people and then labels and stuff like that, and the people at Spotify, just little memories about my songs and stuff like that. So I have a song, I'll release it. This is the first time I'm talking about it. It has something to do with coffee, so we're like thinking of sending coffee stuff. But yeah, I actually made merch for my song that came out, and it's dropping this week, so I'm really excited about it. It's my first time. I'm like, I'm gonna give it to my grandma and all the Mark. I want to see Mark in it. But yeah, it's super cool and stuff, because my manager actually owns a merch firm. He's great. So if you girls ever need anyone, like, he's absolutely amazing and just so awesome to do that kind of stuff. And he's like just the best. So yeah, that's coming soon. So merch.
Super exciting.
Yeah.
For someone like me that's old school, I love hearing that, yeah, there's merch of any kind coming. And AVIV, if you want me to wear, if it's a t-shirt or something that you're putting out this week and have it be on here, I'm more than happy to do so, because I believe in what you're doing. So
I'll show you guys a sneak peek. Wait, I'll find it on my phone. Continue. You guys continue. I'll find it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's actually become not a game, but it used to be that anytime I would shoot shows in person, there's only the same 3 shirts I would always wear. Certain bands I would wear. And it's kind of become this thing now, like when I do these virtual interviews, like, what shirt am I wearing today? Did I just wear that yesterday? And what band should I kind of play? So, and if I get further enough back, like I'm not wearing one today, I'm just wearing a polo, but tomorrow if I'm wearing one, then I kind of, because I can watch all these things like on YouTube. Oh yeah, there's that one, there's that one. How many times did I wear the nightclub one? How many times?
Oh, I feel you with that. Literally, sometimes I'm like, okay, I wore this, but I really like this outfit, but I literally just did an interview 2 days ago with this. Like, I always think about that more, because like when it's an in-person appearance, like you're not doing so many of them like that, you know, like so many in a row. So I'm always thinking, I'm like, did I wear that? When did I wear that? So I feel you on that. It's like, so then I just go with something simple usually. So
yeah,
Mark,
or just like throw a jacket over it or something.
exactly.
Do you have Eclectic Arts merch? Like, is that something that you've ever thought of creating, like for stuff for your brand?
You know what? The only time that ever came up was a while ago, because I had some people that were actually kind of working with me, and they were saying, hey, if we're going to be at this convention, we should have T-shirts, so we should have something so at least people can see the brand. And it made sense. And I was just kind of like, I only thought about it for like a second. But this was probably like in 2014 or 15. For me, I don't know. I would probably sit there and obsess over like, what do I actually want to do and get out there? I wouldn't want to do something that's necessarily typical. It'd have to be something kind of quirky that would kind of stand out. I don't know, like a foam heart, or I don't know, some kind of weird thing, like do like a prop from a horror movie or something that has Eclectic Arts on it. That would be kind of like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
But we'll see. That's, my brain spins in all kinds of weird ways when I start thinking about that. So I think at some point, if the outlet keeps growing, then it only makes sense to do something, because it also becomes a revenue stream for you too. And you have to have multiples. You can't just have one. So
for sure. Now, and oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like what you were saying, like about that kind of unique thing. Like if your product should be something that, you know, you would buy. That's what people always stress enough. Like, would you wear that? Because like you want people to buy your clothes, yes, because like it's you and they want to support you and stuff like that, but also because they think it's cool, right? So I think that your idea with the prop, like that's so creative and sick. I'd buy it.
Yeah, you want a conversation starter, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I know that even from not so much from a branding standpoint, but so I used to be a model photographer where I was doing model portfolios and all this kind of stuff back in the day. And so like literally I'm here in my living room right now, the same freaking living room I've had for 15, 20 years. So the model and whoever would sit right over here, and then I'd sit across from them. And that means they were looking at this wall over here, and it has pictures of people I've met, things that have been autographed, because it becomes a conversation piece. Something that they can look at and say, oh, is that so-and-so? Or, you know, what was that show like, you know, to talk to or cover or whatever. And it was very strategic that I did that. That's why I always make sure they sat here to see this and don't sit here with their back to it, because then they don't, all they see is my window, which is not much to talk about. But I guess, so yeah, the mentality makes sense though, of trying to have something that, you know, would you wear this? Would you buy this? And also, does it also represent you? And that I'll be fully transparent. That heart idea came from this, this was a long time ago before I was even doing Eclectic Arts. I got this prop that was given to me from, it wasn't an Interview with a Vampire, but it was one of those vampire type of film. Oh, Queen of the Damned, I think is what it was. And it was a foam, like actual artery-based heart. And I was like, God, that's the coolest freaking thing I've seen. And it had the brand on it in the studio and all that kind of thing. So I figured, you know, at some point down the line, I would do something similar to that. I don't know when that's going to be, but at some point, it always stuck in my head. I bet you I have that thing around here somewhere in this mess of a place.
Something I've really wanted to do for a long time is, like, I'm a huge foodie, and like if I wasn't doing music, I would be owning like a food truck and just like doing a lot of food stuff. But like I wanna make ice cream scoops with like my song name on them, and like that's definitely something that, yeah, down the line, or just kind of merging those two worlds together in a way.
Little awesome. Ice, like you need like a food truck with like your ice cream merch and your song playing and your face on the truck.
That would be a vibe. Yes,
that's like definitely. The ice cream truck when you drive around. They don't like, not the traditional song, but I'll just make my own.
And like
in
a part of them like paying, they have to download your song.
Yeah,
your Apple, so you get those
good
streams,
business
you know?
plan.
Yep. Thank you. I'll give you 5%. I'm just kidding. That's so funny though.
That is actually, there was an artist a long time ago that she was also a foodie. And so she started doing these things where she was, I don't know if she's still doing it now, but she was cooking with her fans, kind of doing virtual stuff. So she was kind of talking about, there's my recipe that we're going to work from. So she'd send it out in advance so they could buy the ingredients, and they would actually do it together.
Yeah, I have a friend that does that. So
yeah,
cool.
that was really cool. I had no idea that people did that kind of thing. But anyway, to be interactive, is always a plus. Sure. Oh boy. So I'm also curious with all of you, and you probably have maybe heard this question. Maybe even I asked it. Has there been anything that you might want to look at in the past that you've done that you would maybe do it a little differently, or maybe a do-over, something like, oh, that wasn't quite the way I wanted it, so I would do it differently now?
I feel like stuff that I've done, like my first record, kind of led me to this point. So my first record was very like singer-songwriter, a little bit more pop. And a lot of people like interpret my sound like as country sometimes. Just like I'm not a country, like I'm probably like the farthest thing from it, but a lot of people interpret it like that. So that was kind of how my first record was perceived. And when I worked on the second record, I feel like I finally like found my genre, which is more like alternative rock and a little bit of pop. So I don't really think that there's anything I would have done differently, even like and I'm not saying it to like put myself in the spotlight, but I did American Idol and it wasn't the greatest experience. I didn't really like it. But I wouldn't have made my first record if it wasn't for American Idol. So I feel like everything that led up to now was like supposed to happen. So I don't really feel like there's anything that I would have done differently, because again, everything that's happened kind of led me to like the point of where I am now.
Okay. Yeah, I agree like exactly with what you're saying. I think the same with me, because I started, well, I'm 15 right now, and I started like making music when I was like 12. So I've only been doing this for very like recently, and I think because that growth was always really online. Like I released songs really early. Oh my God. I released my music as AVIV Cohen. That's my like real last name. And I released all this music, and now I've taken it all down because I was like, I can't listen to that. Oh my God, it's so bad. But yeah, just because I think my growth was always really kind of been online and stuff. So on one hand, I don't think I regret it, because I think there's also just some sort of warmth and stuff that for people who do listen to my music, they can kind of see that development that really goes into it, because it doesn't happen overnight, and people still are finding themselves, even me, like who knows, maybe the stuff that in 10 years that I make, I'm going to listen to the stuff I'm making now and say, that was garbage. I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, I think just development is just really important. So I don't think I regret it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with the sentiment of like not regretting any decisions that I've made, because they brought me to where I'm at, and I'm very happy with where I'm at. But I think like staying true to myself, like I started pop music when I was 18 and I'm 23 now. And just like being in the studio, I was really influenced by other people's kind of like what they wanted the song to sound like, more so than like what I wanted and how I am as an artist. So when I listen back to those songs, I can tell that I'm just not being like my authentic self, and it makes me just not happy and not want to promote the songs anymore. And like you were saying, Aviv, like I listen back to them and I'm like, there's definitely a lot I would change about those songs. But you just kind of have that development, and your fans appreciate like watching you grow, and they appreciate, like, people are so proud to be like, I've been with you since day one, those people that are just the day one supporters, the ride or dies.
Yeah, well, and it makes sense that you want to stay true to the development of where things are at, and that's absolutely going to happen with everybody. Even with me as an interviewer, if you go back and look at some of the early interviews I've done, they're on my YouTube channel. It's like, oh my gosh. It did not happen overnight. It took a while, and it is a skill set you have to develop and all these kind of things. And I was thinking about Aviv after we did our interview. I went looking around, and I'm like, hey, there's a couple other songs here that I didn't know about, and it's what you were talking about right now, because it was under your full name. And I'm like, hey, she was holding out on me.
do my best to disclose them, not because I'm like embarrassed, you know. I said, like, development is key, and I think everybody develops, and there's no room to embarrassment. Like, there's always room to grow and stuff. But I was really young when I wrote those songs. Like, I was a 12-year-old writing like ballads and love songs, and I think, like you were saying, Maria, you were talking about how kind of like being in the studio and kind of writing things that other people wanted. I think I can relate to that somewhat. I think I wrote more about what I thought people wanted to hear from me.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm 12 and I've never had a real crush on a boy, but I'm in love, and like I need to write these love songs, because if it's not a love song, it's nothing. And I think, you know, I watched Billie Eilish in an interview once, and like this interview changed my perspective on music. And she said, she also grew up in the scene really young, and she said, you know, I didn't have these experiences of love, so I learned that you can relate things to anything. Like, you can have experiences and relationships with anyone, and none of my songs out there are about boys. They're or girls, or whoever people relate to, obviously. But my songs are about relationships I've developed with myself, with my friends, with, like you were talking about, like things like anxiety and depression. You can write to those things, and I think that that's just been so interesting for me. Is like, okay, yes, love songs are the basic ones, but relationships can be romantic, relationships can be platonic. It's just, music's music. If you don't relate to it, then you can be releasing to it. Yeah.
And like it can be about locations too. Like, I write a lot about my hometown and just kind of like the things that it makes me feel. It doesn't have to even be about a person.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Like my song that just came out right now, it's about like feeling lonely and stuff in this pandemic, and that's the exact opposite of a relationship. And people can relate it to, oh, I'm lonely because I'm not with this person that I spend my whole time with, but I relate it to, oh, I'm lonely because I miss my friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's cool to see like how songs are interpreted, because like I don't remember where I was, but somebody asked, and they were like, "Oh, that song's about that, right?" And I'm like, like, and I was like, "That's not what it's about." But then hearing like how other people interpret it, I think is really cool, and I love that aspect of like you can write kind of like ambiguously in terms of meaning, but still have it be like really personal to you, and like have it mean like totally different things to different people. And that's my favorite part of writing, is like writing something that's so personal or about a certain situation, and then like hearing how other people interpret that and how they like make it mean something to them. So that's my favorite part about writing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I have songs where like I'll literally be like, I was at this place at this time, and then it's so specific, and then people will still text to me like, oh, I related to all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, people interpret things in their own way, and it adds this sort of comfort, because like I feel like when you put things out into the world, you're always like, oh, am I being dramatic? Is this awkward? Is this person gonna hear it and think it's about them? And then you realize everyone's like, I relate to this. So you're like, oh, it's normal. Okay.
Yeah.
You. Thank God.
I agree.
Yeah, well, I would also throw in there, I think that's very true, just even for all of us as fans of whoever we like to listen to. That person may have written that song in their apartment for some totally different reason, based on how you interpret it. Could be 180 degrees the other way. And yeah, that's absolutely the beauty of it, is that it could be open to interpretation to anyone, as long as it's resonating with you on some level. And that's definitely the beauty and the power of music. And I've even had it from some of the things that I've written. Someone will say, well, I didn't understand that you're coming from it from this angle. I'm like, I wasn't. I didn't. I have to go back and look at what I wrote and say, how did they get that different interpretation from it? And then it's like, oh, this is kind of like what Sydney was saying. It's kind of interesting that it's true. If you look at it that perspective, I just wasn't thinking that at all. In terms of some of the things the pieces that I've written, I'm like, oh, I guess it could be taken that way, and I just didn't. That was never my intention. I'm big on intention with what I do. I think it's always a key for kind of pushing yourself forward. About you're gonna fail at times, you're gonna fall forward and all that kind of thing. But as long as your intention was to do something good, then that's okay. But if your intention is to do something not so good, either personally to somebody or just with what you're doing with your career, I've got an issue with that for sure. So it's like,
definitely.
Make sure your intentions, keeping you on the right path, and things will start coming to you. Well, ladies, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, this 90 minutes has gone by really quick to me.
It did go by very
Same,
fast.
I know.
Yeah, and I don't want to forget that I don't know if any of you are familiar with Tiger Lily, but she's another female artist that
Yeah, I love her. She's
Yeah.
from Seattle. Well, she's in LA now, right?
Yeah, she's literally on her way back to LA today. Otherwise, she was going to join us here. So there's a chance we might be able to do another one of these if you're still interested. And there's another gal down in Portland that was interested too, but her schedule didn't work out. So this could potentially be the first of others. We'll kind of see how things work in the future here. But again, Aviv and Sydney and Mariah, thank you so much for taking the time. And
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
yeah, and anybody out there that's watching us, thank you for tuning in. And if it's always stays on my YouTube channel, stays on my Facebook. So if you want to replay it and just kind of keep it or share it, whatever you want to do, that's always great. And ladies, we'll go quickly around you. How can people find things? What do you want to promote?
I'm MARIAH BELGROD, and my shameless plug, you can follow me on Instagram at MARIAH BELGROD, and Smule, Spotify, Apple Music. Check out Team Player, and keep being awesome.
Yeah, it's Aviv on all socials. I spell my name AVIV. I don't know if you see the little icon thing here. I don't know what way it is, but yeah. So it's Aviv, and my music is under Aviv. So that's capital A, capital V, capital I, capital V, and yeah. I mean, DM me if you guys have any questions. People that are watching, please. I always answer. So.
And then I'm Sydney Sherwood on Twitter. I'm as Sherwood Music. Instagram, I'm Sid Sherwood Music, and Facebook, I'm Sydney Sherwood. And then you can find all of my music under Sydney Sherwood as well.
Awesome. Again, thank you, ladies, so much for taking the time. I hope you stay safe. Have a good night where you're at in your respective areas, because I know it's getting, it's 10:30 over on the East Coast. And it's still it's like dinner time over here in Seattle.
Yeah, I'm going to go get some takeout.
Yeah. So again, thank you for taking the time. Stay safe, and I'll see you sooner than later.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, Mark.
Thank
Thank you, Mark, and nice to meet you, ladies.
You're welcome.
Bye. Nice to meet you too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.